Okay, now the UK's 56th Prime Minister Liz Truss is taking office today. The former Prime Minister Boris Johnson earlier described himself as a booster rocket that fulfilled its function. He's tendered his resignation to the Queen, that's Queen Elizabeth of England, earlier this morning. Now let's discuss all of this and look ahead with my colleague, that's our correspondent in the UK, Oli Barat. Oli, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to today. Thank you for your time. So Boris Johnson has bid farewell to 10 Downing Street by tendering his resignation to the Queen earlier today.
That's exactly right. Boris Johnson has resigned officially. We've known for some time that he was going, but actually his official resignation didn't happen until he was in front of the Queen at Balmoral. That conversation happening in Scotland because of the Queen's recent health issues, not at Buckingham Palace, as it would normally do. And before he headed to Scotland, Boris Johnson was out on the street, on the steps outside Downing Street, saying his farewell words.
Through that lacquered black door, a new Prime Minister will shortly go to meet a fantastic group of public servants. The people who got Brexit done, the people who delivered the fastest vaccine rollout in Europe, and never forget, 70% of the entire population got a dose within 6 months, faster than any comparable country. That is government for you. That's this Conservative government. And I will be supporting Liz Truss and the new government every step of the way. Thank you all very much. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you.
Okay, that was the tada from Boris Johnson, Oli. Yeah, sorry, I was saying that was the tada. That was a goodbye from Boris Johnson. He's gone now. Is it clear what he's going to be doing next? He says that he will be supporting Liz Truss.
Yeah, he said he'll be supporting Liz Truss. He compared himself to a used-up rocket coming back from a space mission and splashing somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. He then compared himself to Cincinnatus, a former Roman leader who retired to his farm. But actually, scholars have since pointed out that Cincinnatus later made a comeback and ended up leading Rome again. So that's really just fueled speculation that while Boris Johnson certainly will head for a period on the backbenches and will re-engage in his media career, that perhaps in the back of his mind he might be eyeing up another run at leading in Downing Street at some point in the future, depending on exactly what happens with Liz Truss's premiership.
Yeah, now Liz Truss yesterday very briefly at the Conservative Party meeting when she was announced as the new leader, you know, saying a couple of things, but focusing really or emphasizing delivery, saying, I'm going to deliver, we are going to deliver, going to deliver. You said to us yesterday the cabinet is supposed to meet on Wednesday. What's happening now? What is Liz Truss busy doing now? Is she putting together her cabinet?
Yes, we haven't had any announcements yet, but that's certainly underway. Liz Truss is currently making her way back from Balmoral, where she also had an audience with the Queen and was asked to form a government. And she's on her way back to London to head to Downing Street. Certainly phone calls will be underway looking at appointments to her cabinet. But also when she gets to Downing Street, we will hear from her. She will speak. We would normally expect to hear from her on the steps outside Downing Street in the same spot that Boris Johnson spoke this morning. But the weather in London is bad today, sporadic thunderstorms and heavy rain showers. So it may be that either that moment is postponed a little bit until the weather clears up, or that she does that speech inside. And then once we've heard from Liz Truss, we do expect to start hearing about cabinet appointments. We expect that the major jobs will be done and dusted pretty quickly, because some of those conversations have been going on discreetly in private behind the scenes since Liz Truss has been aware that she's going to be heading into the top job. And then, yes, as you say, cabinet due to meet on Wednesday, her first Prime Minister's question session immediately on Wednesday. And we also expect to hear an energy plan, a cost of living crisis response from Liz Truss set out within days. That could come as soon as Thursday or Friday of this week.
Yeah, is it fair to say that because of the crisis that the UK faces, not just with the cost of living crisis, the energy crisis, there are many other domestic issues, that in her first few weeks she'll be focused on that, particularly because you've got only 2 years to go before the next general election?
Absolutely right. She's made it very clear that the energy crisis will be her major focus, and there is a growing sense that she really wants to try and get out ahead of this story and launch a plan of the size and of the scale that can really allow her to be seen as a Prime Minister that is grappling with the major issue of the day. The difficulty is that it is such a huge challenge for the country, such a huge challenge for households and businesses up and down the country, that it is going to take a huge amount of spending, a huge amount of expenditure coming from the government if the reports about how she's planning to essentially freeze energy prices close to where they are at the moment are to be believed. And so a very difficult period ahead for Liz Truss, but at the same time a period of opportunity. If she can show that she's grappling well with the issue of the day, then that will, you would expect, feed through into favourable views from some voters. And she needs that, because at the moment the polling suggests that Liz Truss is not a popular incoming leader.
Not a popular incoming leader. Where is she likely to get support from? I mean, yesterday it was too soon to talk about public sentiment. I wonder if 24 hours later, after she's been announced now as the new leader of the Tories and that she'll be now the new Prime Minister, if you've been able to gauge how people are feeling about her.
Yeah, well, again, the polls suggest that Liz Truss is not very highly thought of by quite large chunks of the British population. Now, normally, incoming leaders do get a bit of a bounce. They get some positive press coverage. People start to view them in a slightly different light from perhaps how they've seen them before. The problem for Liz Truss is, as you exactly point out, she's coming in at such a time of challenge. It's not just the energy crisis, the cost of living crisis. There is related to that, it appears a recession on the way for the UK economy. There are real difficulties in the health service, which is still recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic and all of the difficulties that that posed for healthcare. We have a war on the European continent. Many people are saying that Liz Truss has the hardest in-tray to deal with for an incoming Prime Minister in perhaps 3 or 4 decades. And that really is going to make it difficult for Liz Truss to get that bounce in the polls that she is hoping to get because of just the scale of the challenges that she's up against. But again, as I say, it also provides an opportunity if she can grasp some of those significant difficulties and challenges and show the public that she has plans in place and is responding in a way that they like. That could lead to a bounce in the polls, and that could lead to a shift in public sentiment because, again, as you quite rightly point out, we have an election due by around the end of 2024. That's not a huge amount of time in politics to turn around what is at the moment quite a strong polling lead for the opposition Labour Party.
Yeah, she has a monumental challenges ahead of her. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Oli Barat here on Today on eNCA, our UK correspondent there in London, and they are still waiting to hear from the new Prime Minister shortly when she goes back from Balmoral, where she met Queen Elizabeth, as is a tradition in the UK, so that she can be announced and allowed as a new Prime Minister to form her government.